which we're so to be able to do with you and partner with our folks across the pond in Viterbo who are joining us on a pretty late Tuesday evening. It's 9 o'clock there, but we're really thankful that they're able to join us. We've got a really good group here this afternoon to share some pretty important and invaluable information about our great program over at SYA Italy. We're going to share and do a little presentation, and then we also have some parents here who are going to share their perspectives. We'll introduce them when that comes time, and then at the end there will be lots of opportunity to ask questions. We have folks on the Zoom now who will be answering the shorter questions as we go, but the larger ones we'll share with the group. So at this point, I want to introduce Patrick Scanlon, the resident director in Italy, who has been, who oversees the whole program abroad and works with all the students. And he's going to be having a conversation with 2 current students enrolled, and they will introduce themselves along with Pat. Thank you. Pat, it's all yours.
Well, thank you, Rachel. It's really great to see everybody and to see so much enthusiasm for our wonderful school. And we welcome you here, which I would say tonight or this afternoon for you, depending on where you are. I would begin simply by introducing our 2 students, and I would ask Maya if you'll introduce yourself, say where you're from, and we'll come back and have you kind of speak about some of the topics we're going to talk about tonight. Maya?
Hi, I'm Maya. I'm from Dallas and I'm a junior here.
Welcome. And Miles?
Hi, I'm Miles. I'm from Los Angeles and I'm a senior.
And Maya's mom has also joined us. Sejal, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Sejal Desai, Maya's mom, and delighted to be here to share our experiences with you.
And I also believe, Miles, your mom is on the call.
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, I'm Dee Dee.
Excellent. Hi, Daddy. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Sure, I'm Dee Dee Gardner. It's nice to meet everyone. Happy to be here.
Welcome. Thank you all very much. Should we go straight to the presentation, Rachel, or are we going to play the country video?
Oh, we have a great Italy country video to share with you before we jump into the presentation. So Sarah, can you share the video, please?
Sorry, 1 second, technical difficulties.
I just need to let you know that there was a fire alarm that went off in our home office where Sarah and Rachel are, that had us getting started a little late. They vacated the building just moments ago and are back in their seats right now. So I really do appreciate your patience. It appears there was no fire.
Yes, thank you, Pat.
The walk to school is actually really cool. If you take the time to really engage in what's happening around you, to look around and see how beautiful of a place you are. Sometimes there are days where I'm just looking around and taking in what now is my home.
Everybody says it's life-changing. Everybody says that it's the experience of a lifetime, and I can't think of any other words. It's not just schoolwork. It's actual practical experience that you can't really get anywhere else.
Having to figure out my own environment, the confidence that I have built from that is the biggest thing I'll take away from SYA Italy. The second that I got here, I knew I'd made the right choice. There's no way to describe it.
Studying ancient history or archaeology or Latin or Greek gives you lots of opportunities for the hands-on. And Italy, in this sense, with its 3,000 years of civilizations, can give to a young mind an experience that is almost impossible to describe in words.
I love challenge, being able to come back and say, oh my gosh, I spoke Italian all day, I made my way all the way to Rome. It's liberating to be able to have that kind of independence that most high school students don't get the chance to experience. I've realized that the world is a lot smaller and a lot more connected than I ever imagined.
My host family, they are the cutest people I have ever met. I can leave Italy saying I'm part Italian now, and I'm part of their family, and they love me and I love them. And the relationships that I've created with them, that's something that I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life.
I know it can be sort of scary and thinking, oh, 9 months in a foreign country, it flies by so fast and it's so fun, and it's an experience that I feel so fortunate to have been involved in. And it's not something that a lot of people get to do, so if you have the opportunity, please do it.
Just by applying, you're saying, hey, I want something different, I want something new. And if it's something that you want to do it.
So that's a little video that gives a snapshot, if anything else, of our program. And much of what you see there looks like after-school activities, but is really part of our curriculum. So I want to begin by saying that we use the town that we're in as our classroom. We use the broader province, the region, and Italy as part of our curriculum. And apart from having an English class and a math class that allows students to stay in sequence with their graduation requirements from their home schools, our mission asks us to take full advantage of our place and incorporate it into what students are learning. I think some of the students' voices did capture some of that, but even the activity of going out to get ice cream, I recall when they did that was part of a class, believe it or not. So what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about how our curriculum is structured, and then call on Maya and Miles to come, just to illustrate with a couple of examples of how this works. But there are two key concepts in our mission: place-based and experiential, which means things that can be done exclusively here, and doing that allows our students to learn. So we're in the school technically Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We might be in classes, but classes might take place outside. But Wednesdays in Italy is a fieldwork day where students are out doing challenge activities associated with the courses they're taking here. Those courses are incorporated in both an interdisciplinary way and sometimes with specific language or other requirements essentially by their elective or fieldwork classes. So I'd like to ask Miles to start with by telling us an example of a fieldwork, and this is with very little preparation. Miles, what's a fieldwork activity that you remember where you felt yourself learning in the moment?
So this was one of the very first field works that we did, actually. We walked quite a ways away from this little rest stop around the outskirts of the walls, considering that Viterbo is a very medieval city and it has a lot of very ancient architecture that still remains, which is amazing. But we walked a little ways away, stopping every once in a while for a little elementary, a little break, so we could all catch up and get to know each other, being as it was one of the first weeks. And we came across this vineyard where we were picking grapes so that we could later on use them to make wine for the agroecology students. And I mean, that was probably the very first fieldwork, very first moment actually, where I really realized how different this place was than from back home. I mean, it's to say one thing, you know, when you're describing one's class experience picking grapes as opposed to studying something in a very repetitive and kind of boring American school, but there's just like the immersion between all of our students, all of my fellow peers and myself, and the way that we were able to engage in the culture just by like going about the general agroecology and the like agriculture of that given area. Like that was amazing, and being able to incorporate that into like our actual curriculum as opposed to doing it in our free time, which I still do, just made it that much more meaningful in terms of our educational experience and the way that I was able to interact with my newfound friends and now who I consider my family, in like one of the most natural and intimate ways possible.
Grazie tante, Miles.
Yeah.
Maya, can you add one of your experiences that might augment what Miles said?
Yeah, for me, I don't have exactly like a specific one, but I would say any of the times we went to Rome, for me was a big one because like we had to plan out everything ourselves, and now it's become so simple for us, just like taking the train, going there, navigating the public transport in such a big city, and being able to do all of that ourselves. For me, that was like really different from what I was used to like at home. I would honestly like never have to do anything like that myself. I usually just would have someone else, like my parents or my brother, do it for me. But then here I've learned how to like actually be more independent, and I think going to Rome and back and spending the day there was a good sign of that and a good way for me to be able to practice.
Grazie tantissime. Parents, let's say, Sejal, could you tell the parents that are present here how confident you are that your daughter is learning and preparing herself both? She's going to go back and be a senior for her senior year, for college and beyond.
Yes, thank you. So, you know, it's interesting being in this webinar, and it's kind of bringing back memories from, you know, having done this a year ago when we were prospective parents, and now, you know, having seen Maya go through this incredible experience. So we're just coming back from spending 3 weeks with her in Italy, and you know, while, you know, through WhatsApp and phone calls over the last semester, we saw you know, Maya's just growth, you know, in many ways, being with her, you know, in Italy, watching her, so independent, confident, you know, just as she said, right, the ability to navigate, you know, new places and new environments, you know, is a big deal. So you know, Maya, growing up very shy, very timid, you know, she was not supposed to leave my side ever. You know, that was kind of, you know, Maya growing up. And then when she made this very independent, you know, decision and took ownership of it to want to go to Italy and, you know, do a school year abroad, you know, we weren't quite prepared for it, but having seen how much this has impacted her in a very meaningful way, both, you know, just from a life skills perspective, but also academic, you know, I think, you know, has truly sort of resonated with us. You know, I think it's also put her in a space where, you know, she's not just thinking about school or her world as Dallas, Texas, or, you know, Green Hill School. Now she's stepped out and she has such a big, like, her sandbox is so much larger, and her perspective on the world and is so much more different, right? And I think, you know, doing that through a place-based, you know, very unique experiential opportunity has definitely been, you know, I mean, amazing. I'm so glad we, you know, there were many times when we were, you know, hesitant to send her just because she was our little baby, but I'm very glad we chose not to, and we allowed her to go and have this wonderful experience.
Well, we've been the better for it. Thank you so much. Didi, what could you add about seeing Miles grow academically and personally?
Yeah, well, first of all, I agree with everything that you just heard. I think it's a totally transformative year. I think you're just instantly outside of your echo chamber and where you've spent your whole childhood and with the same kids. And I think there's something really valuable about being on the continent and being proximate to so many of the events of our world. I was stunned at Miles's fluency by Christmas, and it does require a real sense of independence and getting on the bus and traveling and taking the bus to school and getting your stuff done, getting your work done. But I've been thrilled. And one thing I said to Miles before he left, which I think is borne out, is that it's a very self-selecting group. I don't think every kid wants to leave high school, but when you find yourself surrounded by a bunch of kids who did and do, you're with your people. And then that group is sort of navigating the bigger world. And I couldn't be happier about it.
Well, thank you so much. And so we begin with these examples because our name, School Year Abroad, starts with school. And we do ask students to remember that they've come to school, because sometimes it can be, there's so many stimuli in a year abroad. And I think particularly in Italy, given how small it is and the concentration of history here, that could be easy to forget that one is actually here studying. But that's what students are here to do first and foremost. But part of our program is a homestay. And so I'd like to ask both of our students to describe their life at home right now and talk about how you adjusted to that and what's been challenging, what's been rewarding, and what's given you a sense of accomplishment. Maya, could you start?
Yeah, so my host family, we live like sort of outside of the walls of Viterbo, so I think like a 20-minute drive from the city. And I have a host sister who's older than, or I have two host sisters, but one of them is not living at home. And then it's a really nice place to be. Like, I really like it here. And it's nice to like get a different side of the experience too, because I know a lot of people who live inside the walls, like it can be really convenient and that's a nice part of it. But I like being here, I get to see new parts of Viterbo and like new sort of the small towns that are in the province that I get to see as well, because I go there like every day on the bus or something like that. And it's really nice. I feel like the biggest challenge was that like obviously not knowing Italian at the beginning and having some trouble like trying to formulate words or sentences, but that's gotten so much better now, and I can easily carry like full conversations in the car with my host mom without any problems at all. And now it's gotten to the point where I don't even really have to think before talking about it, which is really nice. I feel like a lot more comfortable now that I've learned Italian.
And it really, your Italian is pretty impressive, Maya. Miles, your host family.
Yeah, so honestly, my host family is amazing. I couldn't ask for anybody better. And that's not to say that obviously, like, you know, when you're moving in with somebody, it doesn't require a lot of work. Like, it's not just an immediate, really fluid motion. You're kind of like blending lives together. But for what it's worth, that work goes a very, very long way. Like, I spent my time downstairs helping my host mom cook dinner for us. I was playing Clash Royale with my host dad. We were watching CSI together. Like, there's a lot of little things that you can do that in hindsight might not seem like that big of a deal, but in reality are like the foundational building blocks for what makes a family. And so just being able to like actually connect with people on that interpersonal level, especially people that like you've kind of never met before, and then trust them as your own like closely knit family, and like, you know, mom, dad, brother, sister, whatever it might be. Like, that's a super, super unique experience. I mean, everyone for the most part really has one family their entire life, and being able to go to a different country, experience a different culture, and still hold on to your old connections while also making new ones is something that I literally didn't think was possible. But then I came here and was able to do all of it without even knowing I was doing it to begin with. So that was phenomenal. And like Maya, you know, she made a great point there. Like Maya, like the whole process of blending in your own immersion to like the Italian language like completely subconsciously. It's so amazing. Like I remember like a month ago, I was talking to my extended host family at this crazy lunch with like 80 people. It was insane. And I remember like talking to all of them like simultaneously. Like, I would remember what someone was saying and I'd go back to it and I'd jump back and I'd be doing it in Italian the whole time. And I remember being back in America and I was like, damn, I couldn't do that then. So like, this is, it's such a fluid, you know, motion where you're just like living the same life every day. And then you come here and all of a sudden it's so different, but so fantastic in that same sense. And so everything really clicks for like, you know, obviously it does take work, but after a couple weeks, like you do really settle into the motion, you do really understand the culture and the language. And then once that becomes even more like second nature to you, secondhand, you're able to extend your reaches even further. So like Maya said, we went to Rome and that was amazing. And I was able to talk with people there. But yeah, I don't know. It's a very subconscious experience and you only really realize how much you've done when you like look back on it. So.
Grazie. Parents, what's it like, Didi, let's start with you. What's it like to watch your son adapt to a new family? What does that feel like for you?
Well, of course, you know, you send them with all the manners and the and all the things. It's what's the word? It's not nerve-wracking. I mean, you're cautious. You're sending your babe away, and you want to make sure that they're gonna be loved and cared for and feel like they have an outlet when they're having a sort of dark, you know, down moment or feeling homesick or what have you. But ultimately, I think our kids are way more resilient than we realize, and giving them this kind of experience really proves that. And I've just been so moved by their gestures and their kindness. And, you know, I'm really thrilled that Miles is getting a different home experience. I think we probably all would benefit from a multiplicity of them.
Thank you. Sejan?
Yeah, and so, you know, it's interesting, right? Not only do you send your child, you know, 5,000 plus miles away, but besides the program, you know, they're going to be spending a lot of time at home and with a family that you haven't really met, right? Like we had no idea. We were obviously trusting the whole process when we did this. And, you know, before Maya left, you know, we did set up kind of a WhatsApp group with our host family and just shared pictures and hey, and, you know, we were Google translating, you know, phrases and stuff to have a conversation. But then, you know, once Maya, you know, moved over, and she, you know, I have to say, I mean, she had probably very few families that she even did sleepovers with, right? Like just, you know, a few close friends that she would go and do this. So for her to do this year-long sleepover with a completely different family who speaks, Italian mostly, was a big shift. And watching Maya, you know, and we've had various instances where she's, you know, she was adjusting or, you know, had to figure out ways to communicate certain things to the host family and vice versa. You know, just seeing her very maturely navigate these processes, I think was, has been, I mean, I think that's also an important part of this whole educational process, right? This whole place-based experiential learning piece that you said. So I think that through this, she's going to be very well prepared for sure to go to college and you know, live in a dorm or you know, handle roommates and other things in the future. But I've just been very impressed with, you know, not only Maya, but many of her other friends that I've heard about that have, you know, very maturely navigated, you know, new home environments as well. And so it's been great to see Maya. And we, of course, spent a lot of time with her host family when we were in Italy, over dinner and stuff. And it was just lovely to do that.
Thank you. You saw in the video, all of you, that there were some aerial shots that we exist in a medieval town. I sometimes tell people that if you stood in the absolute center of the medieval town and walked 20 minutes in any direction, you'd be in the countryside. So the town is both concentrated in a way that where I grew up in the Western United States in New Mexico, which urban sprawl is the rule, is not. And that the within the city walls, which are still intact, although been reconstructed after World War II, not the majority of the town does not live within the walls. It's just outside and then beyond in some smaller burgs and villages and villas. I want to ask the students, what's it like, you from Dallas, Maya, you from Los Angeles, Miles, coming to a town, and I hasten to even call it a city. Viterbesi locals would not let me call it a city. This is a town. Both think in terms of the medieval aspect of it, the way things are concentrated, the way the architecture, the streets, the mentality. What's it like living here? Maya, let's start with you.
Yeah, I would say coming from Dallas, like it's obviously a big city, but it's also really, really new. Like, and I don't want to say bland, but like if you go in the suburbs, there's not really anything I would say that exciting. Like it's houses and stores, restaurants, things like that, and everything looks like just normal, I guess, like typical American city. And then even in downtown, you have like big buildings and everything, but it's not anything that's like there's not much to it historically. And then in Viterbo, it's totally different. Like anywhere you walk, everything's I feel like it's just so beautiful. And then on top of that, like some of the places are like really nice, just not on the inside, but I mean not on the outside only, but on the inside. Like we were walking, I think one of the fieldworks like last week actually, we were just randomly walking through the city showing the new people around. And we went into these churches and it would be something that from the outside just looked so normal, but then you go inside and it's like this gorgeous church. And I love that Viterbo has so many things like that. And even though it's such a small town, there's so many things to see. I feel like that I still haven't gotten like tired of it or anything.
Yes, yes, for sure. I agree. I think that the city in itself, I mean, you can call it a town if you want, but the town in itself it's a really unique experience. I mean, being from LA, right? Pretty much anywhere you want to go, you have to either get in a car or an Uber or whatever you want to do. And the second I came to Italy, I knew that wasn't going to have to be the case because we're not allowed to drive cars and we're only allowed to be them when our host parents are there. So being able to adjust to new things like taking the bus or walking, that was a huge jump from anything that I was used to. But in that same sense, it was like that much more exciting. Like in this experience, right? It's a process of trust. It is, you know, the parents obviously trust the child to go away. The trust extends from the school to the kids to the school and the host family. Like it goes in every direction imaginable, just as the countryside that Patrick mentioned. But the idea is that if you trust that the city or the town is as warm and enveloping as we all say it is, then it will be, because the experience is completely up to you. And the idea is that embracing all of these changes, like for me, not being able to be in a car, but rather a bus, was a huge jump. I'd never taken a bus in my life, but it was just that much more exciting because I had never done something like that. And this was a new experience for me. It was a new life away from life. It was a new home away from home. And I was able to indulge in it as much as possible. And the city itself was also super enveloping and kind. Like all the people are very, very, very nice. Obviously, the school is its own little like sanctuary away from anything that might seem like super foreign or, you know, crazy, scary, whatever it might be. But it really doesn't feel that way. I mean, I remember there was a solid month or two where I had left my wallet on a train somewhere in, you know, northern Italy. So I had no money. And I went to the same cafe every single day so I could get a cappuccino for myself and for my girlfriend. And because I had built such a connection with these people, they gave me free cappuccinos until I could pay them back for a month. It was incredible. They knew me and I knew them, and we had built such like a loving bond, just as you do with pretty much everybody that you see in Viterbo, because they're all very kind, that everyone, well, that's a voice crack, that everyone's just that much more exciting, and it makes the experience so enveloping. And I think that, for example, the main element of Viterbo that really attracted me at the beginning of my application process was the idea that Italy is more than just, you know, simple hand motions and like a wide array of food. Like it's also very deep and rich culture, as Maya was saying. We go to churches. For example, I went to the Church of Santa Rosa, which is a patron saint that we have a specific festival for, where 150 men hold like a 10-ton statue, like tower above their heads. Like the culture develops itself into the modern world, and that's where we are able to really like experience it to the fullest. You know, it's not just we go to a museum and experience things as we would in America, but we really are able to see them in their original and pure form in Italy, because it was inhabited from the 8th century, like before, you know, BC. So the idea is that all of this history makes it a very educational experience, whether you realize it or not. Because I remember coming home and telling my host parents, I could not stop talking about how cool this church was. there was the patron saint inside. And I remember coming back through the piazza, and some random guy I met on the street told me all the history of how there was a sarcophagus above one of the churches in there. And the idea is that, like, you know, everyone that you meet on the street is so kind, and every, you know, stone that you step on has such a deep past that, you know, you really can't go wrong in this town. It's super, yeah, it's super amazing, and not Los Angeles.
So appreciate that, Miles. So there's a question in the chat that I'd like you and Maya to answer about how do weekends work. I'm going to answer another question in the meantime, so you guys can think about how to structure that, because weekends work differently depending on what time of the year it is. So you guys, I'll call on you in just a second. Once accepted, how does the host family placement work? I can tell you that what we do is we know our host families. We intentionally rotate in new families to bring in new ideas and new perspectives occasionally, but the majority of our families have hosted before. So we know them well. When a new family comes in, we interview them, we go to their home. We make it clear that the purpose of hosting is the development of the student, and in terms of both their growth intellectually and personally, but also in terms of language, so that somebody is not just wanting to host to offer a room to board. That's not it at all. When we determine that that family is in the right mindset and wants to host one of our students, we then read the files of the students who are accepted and simply try to make the best match based on family composition, what our host families would request. They may want a male, they may want a female. We may have only families that will take vegetarian students, that won't take vegetarian students, that allergies are at the very top of our list, to make sure that if there's an allergy, we would make it an absolute priority to, if you're allergic to cats, not to put you in a family with cats. So it is a kind of matrix, if you will, that is done without an algorithm. It's done by two human beings, myself and the host family coordinator, that look to see what would be the best match for that family. We make no regard to location. Both the students on the call tonight do commute in about 20 minutes each day. We look at the match between the people. It's not an absolutely perfect process. And in the case where a match isn't working out, we have a system where we talk to the students, we talk to the families. In some cases, we might have to have, we would like to have a meeting to understand. And most conflicts in the families are matters of communication. Sometimes the student brings us concerns and says, I want to resolve this myself. In most cases, we do. But communication is the absolute key to resolving anything that might be standing in the way of the absolute best possible experience that the students could have. So that's once accepted. How does the host family placement work? Maya and Miles, how are weekends structured? It's kind of a complex question. Maya take part of it. Miles take part of it. What do you want to? Miles is off.
For sure. Maya, do you want to start off just talking about you know, what the curfews are like and what our general, like, you know, go about is, or schedule?
Yeah, okay, so Fridays we have a curfew at 10:30. So a lot of times we like go out for dinner, and after school still like people have the different extracurriculars they do. So like sometimes I know like I did ceramics on Fridays for a bit. Now I do it on Monday, but you have a lot of time to still get everything you need to do done. And then sometimes like go out to dinner with your friends, which then usually ends around like 10:30 when you go home. And then Saturdays, it's nice to like sleep in the morning. And where I do is like, since I live more in the countryside, it's really nice. I like go for a run or a walk and every Saturday morning. And it's really beautiful because I live near like these hills that are really pretty. And then spend some time at home. I like to have lunch at home on Saturdays generally. And then usually in the evening, a little bit later, I go out with my friends. We have dinner, walk around the city. It's really nice to just like get this time to like spend with everyone and just talk with your friends. I felt like we can do a lot of that during the school day, but then also I feel like it's nice to just sit down for a meal with these people and just talk about everything, because I feel like it's honestly the best group of people I've ever met, and it's amazing to be able to spend this much time with them. Yeah, and then Saturday curfew is 12, and Sundays I usually like to spend at home, like have dinner. Sometimes I'll go out, but usually it's more like I stay at home, I finish my work. I also sometimes like help with lunch or with making lunch and things like that. And then we also have the opportunity to travel over the weekends. There's like day trips that you can do, and then independent travel. I've done one overnight trip. I went to Bologna with 2 of my friends, and for 4 days, because it was a long weekend, and that was really fun. We got to plan the whole trip ourselves basically, and just go on our own. And then when we were there, we were basically free to like do whatever we wanted to do. So we saw some really cool.
We seem to have lost Maya just a little bit. Miles, what could you add that she might have left out, and then pick up on the extracurricular activities?
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well?
no, of course. Yeah, of course, I can actually tackle that. But so like Maya was saying, you know, we have a really wide array of like things we can do over the weekend. And that's kind of like the beauty of it, you know, it's really up to you, and everyone chooses to spend their weekends differently. Oh, okay, she'll be back. And the idea is that, like, you know, you can really just use it for whatever you need to. So for example, I had a math test today, and so I spent all of Sunday studying and hanging out with my host family. And on Saturday, I believe one of our very close friends had like a little get together with some friends for his birthday party that was kind of delayed, and so we went to that too. And so, you know, everything that you can really hope to do over the weekend is really easy because of the provided curfews and the whole like safe and organized aspect of it all. So on top of that, though, like the extracurricular activities are also super amazing. We have this coordinator whose name is Dave. He's British. He's my favorite accented individual at this school. And he really helps us coordinate everything you want to do. So that really goes for, quite honestly, anything. I remember a friend of mine, as well as myself, were trying to find a gym for a very, very long time. And we had gone to maybe 3 different gyms. One of them, we had to go like up an elevator, go into like an abandoned hospital wing. Like, it was strange. But we came to Dave and we asked him, hey, we were like, hey, can you like help us? We don't know where to go. And within like the hour, he gave us the perfect gym, but well within our walking distance. I remember kids have asked him for fencing lessons, and he's found those. Same with dancing, same with basketball, same with soccer. There's a ton of different regional teams all around the city or the town. So you can, you know, engage in those as well. But yeah, the weekends are really up to you. And obviously our breaks extend for, you know, like every once in a week. For example, we have an extended weekend where we can I do have Dave's email. I can send that when yeah, so cool, I can do that. But I remember that we have some extended weekends every once in a week where we have our independent travel weekends. So we can go, for example, Maya went with herself and 2 of our friends to Bologna, and she spent a couple days there. I'm planning on going to Rome this weekend. I mean, there's a lot you can do. And like, basically it's, you know, it's an opportunity to really live your life to the fullest, as we've been saying. Like, you know, you can kind of use Italy as your little nut, your little fruit, and make the most of it as much as you want. I mean, the school is always going to be there to support you, and always also be there to like reel you back in if something that you're like planning on doing might be too far or too strenuous in an activity. So I mean, it's really it's a collaborative process, and it's all very hand in hand. And I've had a great time so far. So
Thank you. Miles, how much Italian did you know before you got here?
Niente, adesso io so tanto perché ho studiato per 4 mesi adesso, e anche la mamma è molto impressionata con me.
Anch'io.
I knew 0 Italian. I remember I did Duolingo for 2 weeks, and I knew how to say apple. And then I came here, and within a week I was able to use the past tense and say what I ate and what clothes I'm wearing. And I'm sure the same is true for Maya. I mean, it's kind of amazing. It really is a subconscious effort to learn as much Italian as possible. And I'm always surprised.
Maya, how much Italian did you know before you got here?
I did Duolingo for like, I think since March, and then it came in August, so I knew, I'd say like a bit, like, or enough to do like get greetings, things like that, and some grammar. But yeah, like not enough to actually speak, which I realized when I got here, like it's a lot more than I expected, I guess. But I picked it up pretty quickly, and like for me, I took Latin at my school at home, so the grammar ended up being really easy for me to learn, but then speaking and understanding was super hard at first, and now I feel like I can do so much better. Like speaking, especially, like I've gotten a lot better at that. Understanding can still be hard, but I think where I am now versus where I was when I came here is just a huge difference, and way more than I was expecting to.
Thank you. So the quick question about Latin and Greek, we offer Latin, we offer intro Greek to both fall semester and full year students. You cannot start intro Greek in the spring. By Greek, I'm talking about ancient Greek, not modern Greek. And our Latin levels are Latin reading, which is essentially 1 year beyond intro Latin, which assumes that students know the grammar. And we have a course called Advanced Topics in Latin, which is a pre-advanced placement Latin class, and we have advanced placement Latin as well. But Rachel, I want to turn it back over to you. We've sort of been Q&A all along, because I've been keeping my eye on that, because these students can answer them so much better than I can. There is no large body of water nearby Viterbo to provide rowing. The best we can do is in a gym as far as rowing is concerned. But all of our admissions folks also know about the activities that we have available to us, as I'm monitoring some of these questions.
Yeah.
Rachel, where should we go from here?
Yeah, so I've got a few questions that I've been monitoring that I want to kind of jump in, and I may ask for some help here and there, but thanks for covering the host family question, Pat. One of the questions was about the academic calendar, when that's available. That will be available. Our admissions decisions go out the first week of March, and you will have the actual big dates, the start and end dates and the holiday dates available at that time. We're in the process of setting next year's calendar right now. But in the meantime, someone did put the link in for last year's calendar, this current year's calendar, and it can be found on the website, and those dates are relatively similar. So you can get a sense of when the school trips are and what the SAT test dates are and what the school holidays are, and start and end date on the website now. But that actual 23-24 calendar will be available in early March. Another question was about sort of tuition and financial aid, and the tuition is available on the website, $62,000. We're setting next year's tuition. That's the year-long tuition. That will also be available at the first week of March when decisions go out. And the semester tuition is available then too. We do have very generous financial aid available, and we encourage families to apply. That process is outlined in detail on the website. We use SSS, which is an online service. You fill out the application with all of your financial information and submit it. And we do our very best to, if admitted, meet your financial need, and those decisions are sent out at the time of acceptance. We also have quite a few merit scholarships available, and those are outlined on the website as well. So I would direct you to the admissions section and the financial aid. One other little caveat on the tuition is very inclusive. It includes all of your school sponsored trips, that when you travel with the school, your lunch is included in that, your meals. There's little extra. The airfare is not included in the tuition. And then additional spending money that students may want for their weekends, or if they choose to engage in independent travel, that would be required by the student. But the tuition is very inclusive of all of the school travel. Another question I saw was about, someone was asking about the semester and the year, and I just wanted to touch base on that. Our two awesome guests today, Miles and Maya, are year-long students, and a majority of our students do enroll in school year abroad for the year. But we are, we'll be at lunch having our third year of enrolling semester students. It's about 25 to 30% of the class. So a majority of the students are the year. And sometimes there's just a reason why a semester works better for you. You have a serious commitment one of the semesters, whether that's a sport or some other commitment that will not enable you to take advantage of the year. But we're all a little bit biased in feeling that the real advantages can come from spending 9 months abroad. But there certainly is the option for the semester, and there's folks applying for that spring and fall. We also have a summer program in Italy, and that application is due February 1st. And again, lots of information about that on the website. That's a 5-week program. I call it a mini SYA. You are living with a host family, and there's some travel as well, but it's a much shorter program than our semester or year-long program. Those are some of the questions I scanned through the chat box that I wanted to make sure got answered. One question was interesting I saw, and I don't know if anyone else saw this, and this is really a question for the students, but how did you communicate with your host families when you didn't know a lot of Italian at first? And was it, this came through in the chat box, was it, intimidating, and how did that work in sort of how you were able to communicate important pieces of information and vice versa? Miles or Maya, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I feel like I've talked a lot. I can follow up with you, Maya. Do you wanna hit first?
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I think Maya's connection is not great. So Miles, you just want to jump in a little bit?
Yeah, sorry. Could you repeat the
okay.
last bit of the question?
Yeah.
Essentially, how did you communicate with your host family when you couldn't speak Italian?
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay. So yes, this was a bit of an original struggle of mine. Right. So I had this internal mantra where I would not use Google Translate unless my life was like in danger. And I stuck by that. I chose not to use Google Translate. And some of the really great parts, or I guess one of the really great parts about the Italian culture or language is that there's a lot of hand motions involved. So they're not at all weirded out when you decide to do your best at sign language, because it's part of how they speak. Obviously, I'm sure that people have seen online, there's that whole thing. It's like natural Italians trying hard to not speak without using their hands, and it's very evident. And so when you're able to include hand motions, which you learn in one of our experiential Italian classes, which is also amazing because they really do teach you every aspect of the culture and language as a whole, you're able to make the most of it. And so, for example, I think I spent 15 minutes asking, what the common breakfast food was. And I think, we ended up resolving on the idea that eggs were never to be eaten in a European country. I don't know how we got there, but really, it's a whole wild experience. And I really enjoyed it from the very start. And I think the best part about it all is that you get to learn Italian much easier. There's a difference between studying a language in a classroom and then being put into the very center of its significant culture and being able to hear it from all edges of the earth until you eventually learn it and figure it out. And so through, hand motions and writing things down and pointing things out and some very intense games of charades, you really are able to communicate very early on. But anytime you think that you're struggling, just remember, you're forming that tiny little pathway in your brain that's going to help you learn how to say it later on. So it's all a learning process. Yeah.
Maya, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sorry, I think my connection was just really bad for a while. But yeah, for me, my host parents don't speak as much Italian, or English. And my host mom speaks very little, but my host sister speaks a lot. So I think worst case, what I would do is I would ask her to translate. But a lot of the times, my host mom is the one who picks me up from school or takes me to school. So in those cases, I didn't really have that option. And one thing we did was I would just speak as much as I can in Italian, and then some words maybe I would have to say in English. And sometimes she knew them, so that was great. but a lot of times I would have to like, if I'm talking about like an object or something, I would have to describe it in Italian, or like she would describe the object, or like something to me in Italian, but without saying the actual word. And then like that was how we would figure out what each other meant. But I liked doing that a lot because it helped me learn so much more than I would have. Like if Miles said, just like using Google Translate, sometimes it's needed, but a lot of the times like there's so many more ways to actually like communicate that can help you learn a lot more and a lot faster.
You know, the question is so good because it's a proxy question for about 1,000 other questions. How do you do so many things that you didn't know how to do, and that we can't possibly show you? There is a lot of using your own resources, being resourceful, asking for help, figuring it out. That is what we're about. And below that is a safety net that both the students have alluded to, the parents have alluded to, that if you can't figure it out, you also have other resources available to you to figure those things out. So I'm glad you zeroed in on that question, Rachel, because it really does stand for so many others. I will leave to you, Rachel, in just a second. I want to thank Sejal. I want to thank Didi. You're both very busy people. I'm very grateful to you for coming in for this hour, but also for your trust in us and what it has resulted in the display of how your children are doing this year and tonight. And Maya and Miles, I know you guys are busy too. Thank you for taking this time, because you could say all these things way better than I can. I'm very grateful to you. Grazie.
Thank you, Pat. Yeah, as we sort of wrap up this hour, again, it's very late there. I did just want to ask our guests, though, our guest speakers, if there's, knowing that there are a lot of people on this call who've either submitted their application and are wondering if they're going to go, or they're not 100% sure if they're going to apply, they're thinking about it. Is there any bit of advice that you would give them, thinking back to yourself during the application process or the decision-making process, that you'd like to share with those who are on the call?
Yeah, for me, I originally applied thinking like, this is maybe something I want to do. I wasn't that big on it until maybe like January or February. And I was just kind of like scared, I'd say. But then when I got more into it, and I think by March, I was like this is all I want to do. Like, I can't imagine my life without it. And especially now that I'm here, it's genuinely the best decision I've ever made. And like, I know like this last week, I wouldn't stop talking about just how happy I was being here. And I was just like smiling, giving everybody hugs. And it seemed like probably like over dramatic, but it's not at all. Like, this is genuinely, I've been so happy here, and I've met the most amazing people and like most amazing friends ever. And also like some really great Italian people, which I was otherwise like, I never would have done that in America, obviously. So I'd say any advice is just like, even if you're scared, just do it, especially if you've already applied, like the amount of effort that you put in to doing that, and just obviously like the fact that you even thought about doing it. It's definitely a good choice. And when you're here, don't be scared. Like, I used to be really nervous, really shy. I would honestly like not talk to anyone, especially at my school at home. But then here, I've come here and like, I would consider basically almost everyone here a friend, and I am not scared to talk to anybody here. Even talking to like Italians, I don't have trouble with that anymore. So just like do it without worrying or without being too closed off, or just thinking that something's going to go wrong, or being scared of making mistakes, because if you just like let all of that go, it'll be a much better experience, and it's worth it.
Thank you, Maya. That's great. Anyone, any of our other guest speakers have any words of advice, or are we good? Miles?
I mean, I can end off really fast. I know I've talked a lot, but I completely agree. I mean, to emphasize everything Maya's said, just to the sharpest point, you know, it really is, it is a trusting process on everyone's behalf, on the schools, on ours, on the parents, everyone's. But the point of living one's life to the fullest, you know, it's not just about trust. It's about wanting to do what makes everybody happy. And this is an experience that has made me the happiest individual I have ever thought possible. I remember coming here from Los Angeles, you know, having not had a great year at school, having had some trouble, some difficulty with friends. And I remember thinking that, you know, this was just school. I remember thinking, you know, this is just a high school experience. You have to, you know, get through it, get into college, it'll all be okay. But that was complete bogus. I'm trying to make my language as kid-friendly as possible. That just, it wasn't true in the slightest. I remember the second I got on a plane to Italy, I came a little bit earlier than everyone else, so you kind of meet everyone at the airport. But the second I got on a plane to Italy, there's this great weight that lifted off my shoulders. And I knew it wasn't the same thing as like when you go to a vacation or, you know, spend some time away, because I didn't have that little thought in the back of my mind, that little voice that said, well, you're going to come home and it's all going to be the same. Because it won't. It won't ever be the same again. You'll come to this place, you'll experience something unlike anything you've ever thought possible. I can assure that of you. And then the second you realize how happy you are is the second you realize that this is the place you're always meant to be, or at least that was true for me. And it is a very trusting process. You have to lean into it as much as possible. You have to lean into your friends, know that they're all in the same boat as you are. Lean into the school, know that they have your back, and lean into your parents. And that means for parents too, you have to lean into your child. You have to understand that, like, you know, they're your baby, but they're not a baby. And so the idea is that, you know, when you come here, they really get to prove that to you. And unless they have another way of doing so, this is really the first and only way that you get to fully know that you get to see them for the adult that they really are, because this is a way to prove that. And this is a way to prove both to the people you love and to yourself just how happy you can be at every moment of your life. So, you know, really fantastic.
Miles and Maya, those are wonderful statements. And I hope both your moms are so happy right now hearing your kids so happy. There's nothing better as a parent, those on the call know. So I want to thank you both and your moms so much for coming, and Mr. Scanlon, thank you. It's always great to get everyone together and talk about what's going on our campuses real time, and to share that with those who are in the process of making a really big decision. But I think after what you've heard this afternoon, it's a pretty good one. Just a quick reminder, application deadlines are February 10th. The admissions team is here to answer any questions you have throughout the process, and decisions go out the first week of March. And we look forward to reading your applications. And thanks again, everyone, for making the time for today's event. Take care.